Being very entitled and controlling, narcissists have no difficulty stepping all over your personal boundaries. So that's why I put together an extensive video class called This Is Me. It has 25 videos, written documents, guided questions. I'm going to teach you how to have healthy boundaries. There's a link below, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. When we talk about the pattern of narcissism, we have what the textbooks will tell us, and narcissism is defined by a lot of selfishness and entitlement. They have a low level of empathy toward you. They want to be in control. They feel superior. They operate with the false self intact. Those are some of the things that you're going to see that are part of the actual defining features of narcissism. But then as we go a little bit further, there are quite a few other adjectives that we could use that would also be off-label in the way that we describe these individuals. And these would include words like stubbornness or closed-minded or argumentative or impatient. But I suppose if there was one off-label descriptor of narcissism that, to me anyway, illustrates why they're so difficult, it would be the description of intolerance. Narcissists are very unwilling to accept individuals who have beliefs or preferences or interpretations of life that simply don't agree with them. So when I say intolerance, what I'm saying is there's a strong black and white, you must agree with me kind of a mindset that they bring. And then taking it a little bit further, as I zero in on this, there are actually two different people that narcissists can be most intolerant toward. And I want you to think about where you are as part of this. Narcissists, number one, can be highly intolerant toward any person who represents diversity. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about individuals who have diverse opinions or values or lifestyle practices, or just sometimes just simple behaviors, like the way they manage their schedule or the kind of humor they like or the interests that they enjoy. Diversity prompts that narcissist to say, I can't tolerate that, and you're not what I need you to be. The second person that the narcissist cannot tolerate is the person who speaks the truth. There are times when someone may step up to them and say, you're in error, and it's true, or you have misinterpreted me, and they're trying to speak honestly with you, or you're being insensitive, or I don't like being treated in a bullying kind of fashion. In other words, when someone comes along and speaks truth and says there's something wrong here that needs to be corrected, it's like, I don't tolerate that one either. I'm going to break these two down for you and see if we can get a fuller understanding of that. And then actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a third person that the narcissist cannot tolerate. We'll get there in just a few minutes. Let's take a look at that first person that they cannot tolerate, the person who lives in diversity from the narcissist. You see, what this reveals is that when you come along and you show yourself to be different, not correct, not incorrect necessarily, but just different, narcissists carry on the inside of them an inability or an unwillingness to empathize. Rather than approaching you in your diverse beliefs and opinions and preferences, etc., rather than approaching you thinking, I could probably learn something here, or there's something going on in your life that's not consistent with mine. What's that all about? In their mind, they're thinking, why would I want to understand you? I mean, if you're not in my club, if you don't think or act or believe or behave as I do, then I have no use for you. And it illustrates that narcissists are strongly transactional in the way that they engage. They don't really need to know you as a human being. They want to know you as far as your utility goes. Somebody that can prop up their biases, etc. Your diversity reveals I don't have any need to show empathy. In addition, when they illustrate that they cannot tolerate the individual who's too diverse from them, it also illustrates that they're unable to accept somebody who requires them to get outside of their comfort zone. It's like, no, that requires too much work. If you think differently, if you prioritize differently, that means that I'm going to have to think carefully about who you are, and narcissists operate with what I refer to as psychological laziness. It's like, don't make me go into that kind of space. I don't do that. In addition, it also reveals that in their mind, they think of another individual's diversity as rejection. Somehow, when someone comes along and through their lifestyle or their preferences illustrates, well, I'm not always on the same page as you, it's like, you're down on my case, aren't you? And narcissists are extremely egocentric to the point of being childish. And so they just interpret it as, oh, so you're against me, aren't you? And it's like, no, I didn't say anything like that. Oh, yes, you did. That's how they interpret it. In their intolerance toward that individual who's diverse, these individuals show that conformity is central to being able to have relationship with them. And that conformity, by the way, is one way. You're supposed to conform to them. They don't conform to you. Conformity is central to who they are. And then as they maintain this mindset that says, I don't do diversity, it sets that narcissist up to be highly critical. You ever been on the receiving end of that? And of course, the answer is, oh yeah. They can be very bossy. They can be imperative in the way that they talk with you. And when I say imperative, they appeal to the regulatory mindset. You better, you're supposed to, you must, you have to. They can be highly judgmental and shaming in the way that they engage. And when I say that, I mean a lot. And they can ridicule you. That's what their intolerance of your diversity can do. They don't like that person who's too diverse. And then the second person that the narcissist is intolerant toward is the person who speaks the truth. And when I say this, I mean they're highly threatened by that. When you come along and say what you're doing is inappropriate, I have some ideas, I have some notions that are of a very different nature from what you refer to as absolute correctness. The narcissist reveals when they cannot tolerate that they're highly invested not just in being right, but in being the standard bearer. And when you come along and say, well, your standard, A, is not very healthy, and B, it's not the standard that I maintain, then they can't manage that. It's like, well, I have to have everything true, right, according to me. And it's all about me. It's very egocentric. That's also then reveals to us that narcissists reject the possibility there can be equally and distinct responses to life events. For example, if the narcissist has one interpretation or a feeling or a reaction, and you come along and say, well, I feel very differently about that, or my interpretation is quite different, it's like there can't possibly be any truth other than what I say is truth, when in fact there are a lot of things that aren't necessarily that dogmatic. They can't deal with that. I mean, how many differences of personal experiences that do we each have and share with each other? We have differences in cultural distinctions and influences, are just different lifestyle experiences, etc. Narcissist is like, well, if you bring that to the equation, I don't know what to do with that. And then in addition, when they can't tolerate somebody who speaks truth to them, it illustrates I'm closed-minded, and I don't mind letting you know you're wrong, and they go into a very high defense mode, and make no mistake, when they become highly defensive, what they're saying is, I'm threatened. I feel afraid of you. Your distinctives, your truth that you try to put onto me scares me. They will not say that. Correctness in their mind supersedes any kind of goodness. And in their mind, it's like, well, you need to remember, I'm superior. That's why you can't tell your truth to me, because I own the superior truth. And of course, this then sets them up to be constant invalidators, and you have to be put in your place when you are wrong. They will argue until they just finally wear you down. They have zero growth in their personal life. So those are the two people that narcissists simply cannot tolerate. Actually, I mentioned there's a third person that they can't tolerate. And that's the person who's immersed in love. When narcissists show their intolerance, they illustrate, I don't know how to love, I'm not interested in that. Now, many of them, sometimes very sanctimoniously even, will say, oh, I'm a very loving person. But no, if that love requires that you cannot be diverse, if that love requires that you can speak only in agreement with them and you can't talk any separate kind of ideas, that's not love at all. Love requires laying down your ego. And narcissists, it's all about me. They're the ultimate egotists. Love supersedes correctness, and that's something that the narcissist cannot do. Love allows for freedom. Love is patient. Love emphasizes kindness. Love requires us to examine our own personal frailties, even as we show acceptance toward the frailties of other individuals. And of course, the narcissist is thinking, I am not about to show you what my frailties are. As far as you're concerned, I don't have any. Love requires internal calm, which they do not have. They carry a lot of chaos on the inside. Love refuses to belittle. We can disagree, but we don't have to belittle. And then love is a healthy extension of your own self-esteem, and narcissists don't have that intact because self-esteem is not built at someone else's expense. So we can say that narcissists will show an intolerance toward that person who's diverse and toward that person who refuses or who wants to speak truth to them and shows, I think, very differently. But ultimately, what we're saying is narcissists cannot tolerate someone who's immersed in love, because narcissism itself is an anti-love frame of mind. It's the absence of love. So I hope this gives you an idea of what you're dealing with if you're that person who says, well, I'm a bit diverse, or if you're that person that says, I want to speak truth. Narcissists lack the balance that's required to be able to tolerate and accept you. In my mind, that balance says, well, I like being right, but I like being kind too. Let's figure out how we can do both. And that's a skill set that narcissists have not managed. Now, I hope this gives you some good insight about what you might be dealing with. If you're one of those two people, sometimes I'm diverse, sometimes I want to speak truth, and the narcissist says, well, you're not in my club. Well, maybe that's a club I don't need to be in. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so we can keep more videos coming toward you as you're in your growth trajectory. I'd be honored to be on the journey with you. Likewise, there are times when you might need to sift this out with somebody who can be objective with you and help you think things through. Narcissists want to keep you in confusion. So, I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. There's a team of licensed professional therapists that they have pulled together. There's a link below that will take you to their online therapy resource. It's affordable, it's accessible, it's effective in the way that it can be managed. And so please, if you have the need, go through the link and you'll even get a 10% discount on the first month. In addition, that I have classes that I have put together, video classes. They're very extensive. Each one has at least 25 videos, and each video has written documentation, guided questions. We have Ready, Set, Connect about making good connections with others. This is me about establishing your boundaries, free to be, finding yourself despite those controllers. We also have my webinars, which have been presented in a different kind of format. They're on the website that we have, along with my podcasts, many articles on the website, and my books, etc. Okay, narcissists can be intolerant, and they can intolerate your diversity. They are certainly not tolerant of your truth that you want to speak. I get it. That's where they are. I'm hoping that being the case, you can decide, well, I need to move on with individuals who are far more tolerant, and I want to be a tolerant person. And in doing so, I hope it causes you to be a person of healthy influence, and ultimately someone who lives in and gives away your sense of peace.